I always thought my marriage was built on honesty, or at least the kind of trust that allows you to sleep soundly at night. My wife, Emily, had been working at what she said was a marketing firm downtown for the last 3 years. She left every morning at 8 o'clock sharp, coffee in hand, a confident smile on her face, and returned around 6 in the evening with stories about difficult clients, demanding bosses, and office drama. It was so normal, so routine, that I never had a reason to question it. But the cracks, as they always do, started small. It was little things like her suddenly talking less about work. She used to ramble endlessly about meetings and projects, but lately, when I asked how her day was, she'd just say, "Same old, nothing special." Or when I offered to drop her off at the office one morning because my route passed near downtown, she refused almost too quickly, insisting, No, it's out of your way." At the time, I brushed it off. Everyone needs their space. Maybe she just didn't want me hovering around her workplace. Still, something about it gnawed at me. One afternoon, I decided to surprise her with lunch. She had mentioned a stressful week, and I thought showing up with her favorite Thai takeout would brighten her day. I drove to the office building she had pointed out months ago, the one she said housed her company. But when I walked into the lobby and asked the receptionist which floor Westbridge Marketing was on, I was met with a blank stare. "I'm sorry," the receptionist said politely. "There's no company by that name here." I laughed nervously, thinking maybe I had misremembered. So I described my wife, tall, brown hair, green eyes, and asked if she worked for another firm in the building. Again, nothing. Confused, I left the lobby and sat in my car, staring at the steering wheel as if it held the answers. My chest tightened with a mix of anxiety and denial. Surely there had to be a mistake. So I called the number my wife had saved in our contacts under work. A man answered with a curt greeting, but when I asked for Emily, he said, "You must have the wrong number. No one by that name works here." That's when the pit in my stomach turned into a freefall. I couldn't let it go, so I decided to dig deeper. The next morning, after she left for work, I called the HR department of the real Westbridge Marketing, the firm she claimed to be part of. After a long pause, the woman on the other end said, "Sir, we don't have anyone by that name in our records. Are you sure she's employed here?" That was the moment my world tilted. I hung up the phone, sat in silence, and tried to make sense of what I had just heard. Emily had been lying about her job for months, maybe even years. But the bigger question clawed at my mind. If she wasn't at work every day, then where was she going? When she came home that night, carrying her usual tired from work expression, I studied her carefully. She set her bag down, kissed me on the cheek, and asked about dinner as if nothing was wrong. My mouth went dry. I wanted to confront her right there, but my instincts told me to wait, to gather more proof. Over the next week, I quietly tracked her routine. I noted the exact time she left the house, what she wore, and how long she was gone. But one Friday, instead of heading downtown, she drove to a quiet residential neighborhood 20 minutes away. She parked outside a modest 2-story house, glanced around nervously, and went inside. I sat 2 blocks away, my heart pounding in my chest, every worst-case scenario flooding my brain. Was she living a double life? Was she seeing someone else? Hours later, she walked out, carrying grocery bags, her face relaxed, almost cheerful, an expression I hadn't seen at home in months. That image burned into me. The next morning, over coffee, she chatted about office deadlines and client meetings that never existed, all while I pictured her stepping into that house. Every word she spoke felt like a knife twisting deeper. I realized then that my marriage wasn't just troubled. It was built on a lie I had only begun to uncover. I couldn't hold the secret much longer. Every smile she gave me, every casual, "I'm exhausted from work," comment, felt like poison dripping into my veins. Still, I wanted the full truth, not just fragments. The following Monday, I followed her again. She didn't know I had taken the day off. As expected, she drove the same route, straight to the same neighborhood, and parked outside that house. I waited until she went in, then walked up the street pretending to jog. From a distance, I saw her through a front window, laughing, pouring coffee, setting groceries on the counter. It was a life, a comfortable one, but not with me. I left before she could notice, my chest heavy with a mixture of rage and heartbreak. I wasn't just losing a wife. I was realizing I might never have truly known her. That night, when she came home, I asked how her day had been. Without hesitation, she said, "Oh, just endless meetings." I nodded, holding the silence like a weapon. She didn't even flinch. By midweek, I couldn't take it anymore. I placed the house address on the kitchen table, written neatly on a slip of paper. When she walked in and saw it, the color drained from her face. "Emily?" I said, my voice steadier than I expected. "Whose house is this?" She froze, then whispered, "It's not what you think." But excuses crumble quickly when truth has already been exposed. She admitted she hadn't worked at the firm for over a year. She claimed she had been laid off but couldn't bring herself to tell me. She said the house belonged to her cousin, who let her stay there during the day while she figured things out. Her story had holes big enough to drive a truck through. "Emily," I asked, struggling to keep my voice calm, "if you were unemployed, why not tell me? Why spend months lying, leaving every morning as if you had somewhere important to be?" Her eyes welled up, but I had already memorized the pattern. Tears when cornered, silence when guilty. Finally, I asked the question that haunted me, "Are you seeing someone else?" She shook her head violently, swearing it wasn't an affair. But the weight of her lies crushed any faith I had left. Whether it was another man or simply another life she was living without me, the betrayal felt the same. I didn't shout. I didn't throw things. I simply stood, walked to the bedroom, and pulled out a suitcase. "What are you doing?" she asked, her voice trembling. "I'm done living with someone I don't know," I said. "You chose to build your life on lies. I can't spend another day pretending I'm your husband when clearly, I've just been your cover." Her tears turned into pleading, but every word sounded hollow. I zipped the suitcase, walked past her, and left. For a few days, I stayed with my brother, trying to piece together what had happened. The silence of those nights was different. Painful, yes, but free of deceit. I didn't have to question if the person lying beside me was telling the truth. Weeks later, I learned through a mutual friend that Emily had in fact been seeing someone. A man who lived in that very house. The cousin excuse had been another layer of deception. She had created an entirely separate life while letting me believe we were still partners. Oddly enough, that knowledge brought me peace. The clarity was sharp, almost cleansing. I no longer had to wrestle with doubts or what-ifs. She had made her choice, and in doing so, she had freed me from the illusion of our marriage. Looking back, I realized the signs were always there. Abrupt excuses, fading conversations, the way her smile no longer reached her eyes. I wanted so badly to believe in us that I ignored the obvious. The lesson was brutal but clear. Trust isn't shattered in a single moment. It erodes slowly, disguised as routine, until one day you wake up and realize the person across the table is a stranger. And sometimes, the cruelest betrayal isn't in the affair itself. It's in the lies that force you to love a version of someone who never truly existed.